In the NFL, physical gifts get headlines. Arm strength, mobility, deep ball velocity. But games aren't won purely with velocity. They're won with anticipation. And no quarterback mastered anticipation like Peyton Manning. Before the ball was snapped, before defenders even moved, Peyton Manning was already calculating, already diagnosing, already adjusting, and most of the time, already winning. When Peyton Manning entered the league in 1998 as the first overall pick for the Indianapolis Colts, expectations were enormous. He came from Tennessee with a reputation for intelligence, preparation, leadership, but his rookie season didn't look legendary. 28 interceptions, growing pains, mistakes. Critics questioned whether his decision-making was too aggressive. But here's what most people misunderstood. Manning wasn't guessing, he was collecting information. Every interception was data. Every blitz package was logged. Every defensive disguise memorized. He wasn't just playing, he was building a library. By his second season, the change was visible. The interceptions dropped, the touchdowns climbed. But more importantly, the control increased. Manning didn't just run plays called from the sideline, he adjusted them, constantly. The now famous Omaha wasn't just a cadence, it was code, it was communication, it was chess at full speed. Watch any Colts game from the early 2000s. Before the snap, Manning rarely stood still. He pointed, he signaled, he waved receivers into motion, he adjusted protections, he yelled at tight ends, he changed routes. It looked chaotic, but it was organized chaos. He wasn't reacting to defense, he was reshaping it. Defensive coordinators dreaded facing him, because disguises didn't last. If a safety cheated 2 inches forward, Manning noticed. If a linebacker widened his stance slightly, Manning noticed. If a corner hesitated at the line, Manning noticed. And when he noticed, he adjusted. Quick slant, audible to run, hot route against blitz, touchdown. There's a famous story from former linebacker Ray Lewis. Lewis said Manning once called out Baltimore's blitz before the snap, correctly identifying who was coming and where. That's not just awareness, that's preparation meeting instinct. Because Lewis was one of the smartest defenders of his era, and Manning still beat him mentally. In 2004, Manning's cerebral dominance exploded statistically, 49 touchdown passes. At the time, an NFL record, only 10 interceptions. He didn't just throw deep bombs, he dissected coverage, quick outs, crossing patterns, seam routes against zone, back shoulder timing throws, every decision precise. The thing about being one step ahead is this: it removes panic. While other quarterbacks react under pressure, Manning often eliminated pressure before it arrived. He slid protections to neutralize blitzes. He identified mismatches pre-snap. He forced defenses to declare themselves. And once a defense declares, it's vulnerable. But here's the key detail. Manning wasn't the most athletic quarterback. He couldn't escape like Michael Vick. He didn't extend plays like Aaron Rodgers. He didn't overpower windows with raw velocity like Brett Favre. He beat defenses before the play began. That's rarer, and arguably more dangerous. The rivalry with Tom Brady defines his career. And for years, Brady won more playoff battles. But even in losses, Manning's command was evident. The chess match between Manning and Bill Belichick became legendary, because Belichick disguised coverages better than anyone, and Manning still adjusted at the line. Every meeting felt like graduate-level football. In 2006, Manning finally broke through, Super Bowl XL. After years of criticism about postseason shortcomings. He didn't play recklessly, he didn't chase hero throws. He managed risk, controlled tempo, trusted preparation. That championship validated his approach. But it didn't change his identity. He remained obsessive. Then came 2011. Neck surgeries, multiple procedures, nerve damage, doctors unsure whether he'd throw with the same velocity again. For most quarterbacks in their mid-30s, that's career-ending. But here's the difference. Manning's game wasn't built on arm strength alone. It was built on anticipation. And anticipation doesn't weaken with injury. He joined the Denver Broncos in 2012. Different team, different scheme, different conference. And yet, the pre-snap mastery returned instantly. In 2013, at age 37, he threw 55 touchdowns, 5,477 yards, both NFL records at the time. That wasn't physical resurrection. That was mental dominance extending lifespan. The NFL star who was always one step ahead wasn't faster. He wasn't stronger. He wasn't flashier. He was prepared. Prepared to the point that defenses felt exposed before contact. And exposure breeds mistakes. But here's the deeper question. Was Peyton Manning simply the most prepared quarterback ever, or was he the smartest field general the NFL has ever seen? And is there even a difference? By the early 2000s, something unusual was happening in Indianapolis. Peyton Manning wasn't just running the offense, he was designing it in real time. Most quarterbacks operate within a system. They execute the play call, they adjust protection occasionally, they react after the snap. Manning blurred the line between quarterback and coordinator. Before every snap, Manning would survey the defensive front. 4-3, 3-4, nickel, dime. He'd identify the Mike linebacker, not for tradition, but for communication. Declaring the Mike sets the protection scheme. It tells linemen who to account for. And by doing that loudly and confidently, Manning forced the defense to reveal intentions. That's the subtle genius. He made defenders react to his adjustment. There's a famous 2009 game against the New England Patriots. Bill Belichick disguised coverage masterfully. He rotated safeties late. He mixed zone and man pre-snap looks. And still, Manning adjusted at the line, audibled into a quick slant against disguised blitz pressure, and moved the chains. The Patriots didn't just have to defend the play. They had to defend Manning's anticipation of the play. That's layers of chess. Teammates often described how exhausting it was to practice with him. Not physically, mentally. If a receiver missed a route depth by 1 yard, Manning corrected it. If timing was off by half a second, he corrected it. If protection broke down because of miscommunication, he dissected it immediately. He demanded synchronization, because synchronization prevents surprise. And Manning hated surprise. That's why he thrived in no-huddle offenses. The faster the tempo, the more control he had. Defenses couldn't substitute freely. They couldn't disguise late. They had to reveal personnel earlier. And once revealed, Manning adjusted. The no-huddle wasn't just about speed, it was about control. By 2009, he had already won multiple MVP awards. His arm strength was still strong, his footwork crisp. But what truly defined him was anticipation. He didn't wait for receivers to be open. He threw before they broke, because he understood leverage. If a corner's hips turned slightly outside, the slant was coming. If a linebacker widened his drop, the seam was vulnerable. He read body mechanics, not just scheme. Then came the neck injury in 2011. Multiple surgeries. Nerve damage, loss of sensation in parts of his arm. Doctors openly questioned whether he'd ever regain elite velocity. For a quarterback whose game required timing and precision, that was catastrophic, because velocity impacts window size. But Manning did something remarkable. He adapted again. In Denver, he didn't try to be 2004 Peyton Manning. He became 2013 Peyton Manning. Faster release, more quick game concepts, more shallow crossers, fewer deep developing plays. He eliminated risk before risk developed, and the results were historic. 55 touchdown passes in 2013, 5,477 passing yards. Those numbers weren't built on physical superiority. They were built on mental acceleration. He knew where to go with the ball before the defense finished shifting. He identified mismatches faster than coverage rotations could adjust. There's a moment in a Broncos game against the Cowboys in 2013. The defense shows a double-A gap blitz. Linebackers threaten pressure. Manning audibles. Protection shifts. He hits a tight end over the middle immediately. Touchdown. The blitz never had a chance, because the snap was already decided before it happened. Being one step ahead doesn't mean never making mistakes. Manning threw costly interceptions in playoff games. He had postseason disappointments. But even in those losses, preparation wasn't lacking. Execution faltered. Football remains unpredictable. But Manning reduced unpredictability more than most. By the time he reached Super Bowl 50, his arm strength had noticeably declined. Deep throws wobbled. Velocity diminished. He couldn't carry the offense alone anymore. But here's the brilliance. He didn't try to. He leaned into defense. Game management, ball security, situational awareness. He understood what the moment required, and that understanding won him his second ring. Peyton Manning changed quarterback autonomy forever. Before him, few quarterbacks had full control at the line. After him, it became expectation. Young quarterbacks now study film the way he did. They adjust protection the way he did. They communicate pre-snap with similar authority. He didn't just master the system, he redefined what quarterback responsibility meant. Being one step ahead isn't about speed, it's about anticipation. And anticipation is preparation plus recognition. Manning combined both, relentlessly. But here's the deeper layer. Was Peyton Manning's intelligence his greatest trait? Or was it his refusal to rely on natural talent alone? Because many quarterbacks have strong arms, few have obsessive preparation. And obsession is what keeps you ahead. Because when Peyton Manning lined up against elite defenses, it wasn't a game, it was a chess match. And for nearly 2 decades, he forced some of the smartest defensive minds in football to adjust to him. The rivalry with Tom Brady often dominates headlines, but the rivalry with Bill Belichick might have been even more important. Belichick built defenses on disguise, late safety rotations, blitzes hidden until the final second, zone-to-man transitions post-snap. His philosophy was simple: confuse the quarterback, but confusion requires hesitation, and Manning rarely hesitated. There's a famous story from a Patriots defensive back who said, "We'd show him one thing pre-snap, and he'd audibly change the play before we could even rotate." That's devastating. Because disguise loses power once it's exposed, and Manning specialized in exposure. He studied tape relentlessly, he memorized tendencies, he didn't just learn defensive schemes, he learned defensive coordinators. In 2006, during a playoff run that eventually ended in a Super Bowl title, Manning faced the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. The Colts fell behind 21-3. Most quarterbacks crumble in that scenario. Manning recalibrated. He attacked intermediate zones. He adjusted tempo. He forced New England to abandon certain disguises. And Indianapolis came back. It wasn't just a comeback victory, it was a strategic one, because he forced Belichick to simplify. And simplifying against Manning was surrender. Here's the thing about being one step ahead. It isn't about predicting one play. It's about predicting the next 3. Manning often set up defenses early in games. He'd call a conservative route concept in the first quarter. Let defenders see it. Then in the third quarter, he'd fake that same alignment and hit a deep route behind it. He planted seeds, and then harvested them. That's next-level quarterbacking. Tempo was another weapon. The no-huddle offense wasn't just speed for Manning. It was pressure. Defenses had limited time to substitute, limited time to disguise, limited time to communicate. And when communication breaks down, assignments fail. Manning knew that. He weaponized fatigue and urgency. There's a 2004 game against the Detroit Lions that still feels unreal. 6 touchdown passes in the first half. 6. That wasn't just physical dominance, it was recognition. He identified mismatches instantly, recognized coverage shells early, and attacked relentlessly. It felt like he was calling the defense's plays for them. Quarterbacks are usually praised for arm strength or mobility. Manning's gift was memory. He remembered how safeties aligned 2 seasons prior. He remembered which linebacker hesitated on third down. He remembered blitz frequencies by formation. That database of knowledge lived in his mind, and it gave him predictive power. There's a clip from a Broncos practice where a rookie defender lines up slightly off balance. Manning stops the snap, points it out, corrects him, then audibles into a play, exploiting that exact imbalance. In practice, that's obsession. Because most quarterbacks don't obsess over micro details in June. Manning did. By the time he reached Denver's Super Bowl 50 run, he wasn't physically dominant. The arm strength had diminished. The velocity wasn't what it once was. But here's what hadn't changed: recognition. He knew when to protect the ball, when to punt strategically, when to lean on defense. He understood situational football better than most coordinators, and situational mastery wins championships. Some critics argue Brady surpassed Manning in total rings. That debate will always exist. But mentally, Manning may have been the most advanced field general of his era, because he didn't just execute plays. He dictated context. He influenced how defenses structured their week of preparation. When you alter preparation itself, you're beyond execution. You're control. One former defensive coordinator once said, "Preparing for Manning felt like studying for an exam where the student wrote the questions." That's the essence. He wasn't reacting to the test. He designed it. And yet, despite all that brilliance, Manning never leaned into arrogance. He didn't rely on ego. He relied on process, film, repetition, detail. His preparation bordered on obsession. Teammates would say he watched tape until midnight regularly, not because he had to, because he wanted certainty. And certainty keeps you ahead. Being one step ahead isn't about flash. It's about eliminating randomness. Football is chaotic. Manning sought to remove chaos entirely. and in doing so, he reshaped expectations for what a quarterback should control. But here's the final question before we close this story. Was Peyton Manning ahead because of natural intelligence? Or because he refused to allow anyone else to out-prepare him? And does it even matter? When Peyton Manning retired after the 2015 season, the NFL didn't just lose a quarterback, it lost a field general. Because what made Manning rare wasn't arm talent, it wasn't mobility, it wasn't improvisation, it was command. And command is difficult to measure, but impossible to ignore. By the end of his career, Manning had 2 Super Bowl rings, 5 MVP awards, 14 Pro Bowl selections, over 71,000 passing yards, 539 career touchdown passes. But those numbers, impressive as they are, don't fully explain him. Because his greatest achievement wasn't statistical, it was structural. Before Manning, quarterbacks adjusted at the line. After Manning, quarterbacks were expected to control the line. That's a massive shift. Young quarterbacks today, from Patrick Mahomes to Joe Burrow, are praised for pre-snap adjustments. But Manning normalized that autonomy. He made it clear that the quarterback isn't just a passer, he's a strategist, a negotiator, a coordinator on the field. Offensive systems now incorporate quarterback choice more heavily. Route options, protection flexibility, audible packages. Manning's career proved that when a quarterback is mentally prepared enough, giving him control increases efficiency. He didn't just succeed in a system, he evolved it. His rivalry with Brady will always dominate debates. Brady accumulated more rings. Manning accumulated more MVPs. But mentally, the chess match between them elevated the sport. It forced innovation, forced adaptation, forced excellence. That era of quarterback play raised expectations league-wide. There's something poetic about how his career ended. Super Bowl 50. His arm clearly diminished, his physical prime long behind him, but his mind still sharp. He didn't dominate statistically in that final run. He managed it, protected the ball, trusted the defense, understood situation over spectacle. And that final championship wasn't about throwing lasers. It was about understanding context. And context is awareness. And awareness is being one step ahead. Consider how many quarterbacks rely on athletic escape routes, scrambling to buy time, extending plays with legs. Manning rarely needed that. He minimized chaos before it developed. And minimizing chaos requires preparation at obsessive levels. There's a famous quote from Manning, "I never want to be surprised." That line explains everything. Surprise equals disadvantage. If you're surprised by a blitz, you're late. If you're surprised by rotation, you're off balance. If you're surprised by coverage, you're intercepted. Manning refused to be surprised, and that refusal became his competitive edge. Some players intimidate physically, some overwhelm athletically. Manning intimidated intellectually. Defenses feared that he'd diagnose them before they even executed. And when your opponent understands your plan before it unfolds, confidence shifts. Confidence matters. It changes play calling. It changes aggressiveness. It changes timing. Years after retirement, defensive coordinators still reference preparing for Manning as uniquely exhausting, because you couldn't rely on disguise alone. You had to vary structure entirely, and even then, he might adjust. That constant mental strain is rare. There's also something deeply human about his journey. The early interceptions, the playoff losses, the neck surgeries, the doubts. He wasn't perfect. He failed. He recalibrated. He returned stronger mentally. That arc makes the intelligence more meaningful, because it wasn't effortless, it was earned. Today's quarterbacks benefit from advanced film technology, AI-assisted analytics, high-speed breakdown systems. But Manning did it through repetition and memory. He built a mental library so extensive that defenses felt familiar before they snapped the ball. And familiarity creates comfort. Comfort creates control. Was Peyton Manning the smartest quarterback ever? Perhaps. Was he the most prepared? Almost certainly. But maybe the distinction doesn't matter. Because intelligence without preparation is useless, and preparation without intelligence is limited. Manning fused both, relentlessly. In the end, being one step ahead doesn't guarantee perfection. It guarantees leverage, and leverage wins games. Manning didn't eliminate mistakes entirely, but he reduced randomness more than most quarterbacks in history. That's rare, that's valuable, that's generational. When historians look back at the modern NFL era, they'll remember highlight throws and dramatic comebacks. But they'll also remember the quarterback who stood at the line, surveyed the defense, shouted "Omaha," and rewrote the play before anyone else moved. That wasn't theatrics. That was calculation. Peyton Manning didn't dominate with flash. He dominated with foresight. He didn't rely on improvisation. He relied on elimination of surprise. And eliminating surprise might be the rarest skill in professional football. Some stars are remembered for physical feats, some for championships. Peyton Manning will be remembered for control. Control of tempo, control of protection, control of preparation, control of the game before it even began. He wasn't the fastest, he wasn't the strongest, but more often than not, he was already ahead. And in the NFL, being one step ahead is the ultimate advantage.